So welcome everybody to our April Business Roundtable. We do this on the fourth Tuesday of each month, where we have a local business owner share their experiences and the challenges they face owning a business in the county. We're thrilled to have Nat Alston here, who is chair and founder of the UJAAMA Business Roundtable, and he's bragging a little bit about his new website. So I'm going to drop that in the chat in a little bit, so you can check that out. And just so you know, if you go there while you're on the Zoom tonight, he's going to know that you're visiting. So bear that in mind. So we're super glad to have that. We're super glad to partnership with him on these events each month. My name is Nancy. My colleague Cynthia is here. We welcome chat throughout the presentation tonight, and we want to give a really warm welcome to Cindi Mitchell here today. And I'm going to turn it over to Nat so he can introduce her and we can get this started. So welcome everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy, for that promo on our new website. But I also got to give you the accolades, you and Cynthia, and say, please, by all means, our guests tonight, tap on or click on the Howard County Library System. They've got some great events that are happening all the time. And if you're in Howard County, please, when you go on their website and when they're able to have in-person visits, and I don't know if it's right now, but it's probably forthcoming, please do that and just take advantage of all the exciting things that are happening with our Howard County Library System. So again, good plug, a shout out to our library system here in Howard County. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight on our general monthly UJAAMA Business Roundtable Showcase, and I am indeed honored and pleasured to introduce to you our guest business CEO for tonight, Cindi Mitchell. I'm going to let her really explain her company, which is truly exciting. I've known Cynthia, or Cindi as she goes by, for a long time. I won't say how long, but it's been quite some time. We've been dear friends. And she has now stepped out on her own as a business entrepreneur. And this is what we're highlighting all the time on our roundtable of people who have started their business and they're stepping out. And we've got some questions for her. And we're really going to let her introduce herself and her company, tell her story. So without further ado, I bring you the CEO, Cindi Mitchell. Cindi.
Thank you, Nat. I appreciate that. You make me sound so great. I appreciate that. I'm so glad to have known you all these years. And thank you, Nancy and Cynthia as well, for hosting and having the roundtable showcase our businesses regularly. I think we need that, definitely. So I'm happy to be here.
So tell us about your business and the name. And really, I'm curious too, don't want to give it out, but how did you come up with the name?
Very great question. So my favorite color is blue, although everything in my office is red.
Okay.
And my nails are blue, right?
Okay.
And I think it was just, I don't know, it was one of those things. I wanted blue something. And I wanted blue because B, when people call for companies, they start with A. And then they go down to B, and then they go down to C. There's a whole lot of A's, there wasn't a whole lot of B's. So I said, I want B. So that's kind of how we got started.
Okay, so you got the B for blue. Now, what about the second part of your business name? How did you come up with that?
All right, so most of people who know me, I have high energy and I'm very glittery and like things with flair. That's probably the best way to describe it. I guess the other thing too is I wanted people to ask, what did it mean? And what do we do? And that instantly will start a conversation because people are intrigued. It doesn't say staffing or recruitment or anything like that. So yeah, I've got their attention for a few seconds.
You know, that's very true because I know that's the entry to, well, what does Blue Flaire really mean? What do you guys do? So tell us, that was one of my questions really. How did you come up with the name and what does it signify? Because there are people out here that will spend hours and hours and probably even almost half a year. What do I call it? instead of being maybe slightly egotistical and call it themselves, you know, X, Y, whatever my name is, and associates. So we come up with a different name. So I think our audience really wanted to know, how long did it take you maybe to come up with the name? Did you think about it overnight, or was just something that spurred the moment?
I think it was probably maybe a couple of days max, because I knew I needed to register the domain for the website first before I registered the company. And so it was just quick and easy. So about a couple of days. Great.
Okay. So you got a couple of days in there, but tell us your story, really. We've known each other, and we basically come from similar backgrounds coming out of the corporate environment, so to speak. What made you decide to, as I said to you earlier, take the plunge?
Yeah, great question. So as you know, Nat, we met through the HR organization in AAA HR, and Baltimore, the Baltimore chapter. And so that was, I don't know, a while ago, many years ago, that way. So I've always been a lifelong learner. I've always enjoyed learning and really investing in myself. Since I can remember, and I never will stop that. So I guess it was probably about 2015, and I just realized that I wanted to take the plunge on something big. I worked for an incredibly awesome company locally here in the Howard County area, and technology company. And the burnout, though, from HR, my background is in HR, 20 plus years, is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of late nights, a lot of weekends, and so on. And although I enjoyed it very much so, I wanted to take the plunge for something different. And I was always energized with recruitment and staffing. So whenever we had to hire or bring in someone new, I was always excited. And I would stay up late to do whatever I needed to do to bring in the top candidates. And so I felt like that was my passion, more so than the entire HR generalist track, if you will, responsibilities. So that's where the start came from. But it came really in daydreams. I'd sit at my desk and I would just be dreaming about, owning and operating something that was my own. So one day I just decided that, you know what, I think I'm going to do it. But I did it subconsciously. So the first thing I did is I moved. And I downsized my home, and I just decided I was just gonna move somewhere where there was no distraction. So I moved to a neighborhood downtown Columbia, and I decided to rent a small apartment, and that's what I was gonna do. And I did it, got rid of half my furniture, made that decision. Second thing I did is later that year, I decided in 2016 to go part-time with my job. So I negotiated for that. So after I did that, then I started Blue Flaire, I guess in October of 2016. And so I have a business partner, his name is Bruce Tyler. And I just remember we kind of wrote out a business plan over a napkin, and that was it. Next thing you know, he's like, hey, how's the business idea? And I was like, oh, I just registered. I forgot to tell you. That's how quick it went. So we got started, and then I left my job about a year later, and then I went full time. So I started doing part-time, contracts, mainly in the federal contracting area, and took the plunge. I wasn't quite sure the direction. At first, it was really replacing the income that I had as an HR director. And then it got into people wanting more from our business, which was, not just a consulting firm, if you will. They wanted to see it with, the capability of many different things other than just recruitment or staffing. So that's how we got the start.
Fascinating. And I'm thinking, as you were talking, really, how did you feel, the psychological aspect of it, really taking the risk of jumping into the business itself, and knowing that you were leaving the the routine or comfort level of, hey, here comes next 2 weeks, the paycheck is coming in, I've got the benefits and all coming in. But how did you feel really when you were making those decisions to really take that leap in there?
Yeah, it was a little scary at first, but then I realized once I went part-time, I mean, my salary, I cut it myself, like to next to nothing. What do I truly need to live off of? I stopped taking vacations. I stopped, all the things that you normally would do with a growing career. And I put every focus into the business. I needed money to live, but I also needed money to put into the business, to market, for sales, and so on. So I figured out what that number was, and then I got used to that. And I lived that way for as long as I possibly could. And I'm still living that way even now that I can afford to live differently. Because I realized that, when you're focused on your dream, whatever that is, whatever your goal, and you're purposely aligned to it, you don't realize what you're missing. You realize that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it became easy. So then I didn't care about PTO and holidays and 401k matching or any of those things that a lot of people do care about. And there's a place for that too. But for me as a business owner, that was my drive. And it was okay to live off of a small amount in order to be able to invest into the business.
So being a single person in there, those were the challenges that you faced, but you hit it head on and said, this is my passion, my dream. I'm going to take that plunge. That was the feeling that you had when you were going into that 216. Did you have anyone that inspired you or kept you grounded as you were going along? Because I can imagine, having been in business myself, you take that plunge, but at the same time, you still need that outside, maybe inspiration or push to say, hey, you're doing the right thing. Was it anybody in your life during that time that was that type of person?
Yes. So they always say that you are a result of the 5 closest people that surround you. So I realized very quickly in my professional life, I needed to network and really get the attention, of my friends and colleagues who were already business owners. They've already taken the plunge. And I asked them any question I could, and we would do networking opportunities together and, get together. And that helped me to stay grounded and focused, because it's a lonely stage that you're in. All my friends were at work, or they were taking vacations and, excuse me. And so for me, I didn't have that privilege, if you will. So I took a different path. So I had to make sure that I would stay close to those people who were already doing what I wanted to do.
Great. And then the other thing, when you decided to go into business for yourself, you said you left the companies that were doing in the IT. Was the initial jump off point? You wanted to have IT as your comfort level because you knew the business. Is that correct?
Yeah, I love technology. So what I learned over my career is I was thrown into, as an HR professional, I was thrown into not really understanding technology, but part of recruiting, you have to understand what you're recruiting for. And so, in order for me to be a good leader, I have to be able to share that with the team, that this is the type of people that we're looking. But I also have to talk intelligently and understand and comprehend, with our candidates. So I got to know technology very, very well, from my career. But I was also the guinea pig in my past life for any new software, any new gadget. They would always say, if we can get HR to do it, then we know it's going to work. So I would sign up. But for me, it was great because then I got a chance to try out all the new things. So, it was perfect. So I think I've lived in this space, and I'm glad to be here because it's a growing, robust place.
And I'm curious, really, Cindi, too, you're in a field and that is, one, male dominated, and to be quite candid, white male dominated.
Mm.
How did you feel entering into this field? Because before you had your company as somewhat of a shield, so to speak, or as an entree in. Now you're out here on your own. So what were some of the challenges or nuances that you had to learn now on your own as a woman of color, going into a field that you don't see too many women and women of color in?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, that's a tough one, but certainly I'm learning as I go along. I think the biggest thing is I was taught by many different people over the course of my career to be yourself, be your most authentic, transparent self, and be the woman that you are, or the man that you are, or whoever you are. Because a lot of times we want to put on a mask, or, you know, you want to send, I think it was it Eddie Murphy that talked about sending your representative, right? You know, I'm not that person. So I am who I am. So behind the scenes and front, what have you. So I think I felt comfortable in that space. I realized I didn't have to compete with them the same way. There's enough business for all of us. So I didn't have to feel awkward because I didn't, you know, have the camaraderie that maybe they did. And I think because I walked in with that mentality, I attracted them to me versus me trying to fit into, you know, what was already in existence. So even now, I think some of my closest allies are people that don't look like me. And that are not my gender. And many of them are my clients, and we love that. So, and they invite us. And in fact, to be truthful, I would probably say some of our biggest clients that we've had have been people that are, you know, white men, and they've partnered with us. And even this year, same thing. They're making referrals for us. They're helping us in so many different ways. So again, being authentic and not worrying about trying to fit in. And so that has helped me.
So you would advise people that's what they should walk into, being that authentic, going in there to a company and build that relationship on that authenticity, you would say?
Absolutely. I think, you know, it's, and you know this, Nat, trying to get a seat at a table that maybe people don't know that you want a seat at the table, or that you are, you know, even, I don't want to say deserve to be there, because we all deserve to be there. But sometimes I think it's hard for people to recognize that you just got to pull your own chair up and you got to make it happen. And if for some reason, if that doesn't work, you build your own table. And that's what I do.
If I may, I'm going to digress a little bit. We've got questions coming from our listening audience or watching audience. So as a side note too, if you got any questions, as Tracy has just done, put those in the chat and I will definitely bring those up. One question already is, can you discuss the milestones and timelines that you set for yourself to determine that you're on the right track? You were on the right track.
Okay.
And thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. Milestones. So we just had one this year, and it was exciting. So up until, I guess, late last year, we were mainly 1099 our team members. We had partnerships with different people, and we would be 1099s, or to them, to our clients, or hired 1099s. So our first W-2 employee, who's actually with us today, you know, came about just quickly on a whim. And that was a big milestone. So when I go back and I think to last year, that's what we drew out. We drew out that we wanted to have this year, even through COVID, we wanted to have 5 W-2s. And so sure enough, because we wrote it out and we started thinking about it, and then we forgot it and just put it aside, it started to happen. So we're getting ready to hire more. We have, there's 4 of us, getting ready to be 5 of us now, and very soon. So yeah, so that happened. I think the other milestones we look at, of course, are revenue. So our goal for the end of this year is to triple our revenue. Next year, we want to hit the $1 million mark. And we're very excited about that because we know that less than 2% of women-owned businesses of color hit the 1 million mark, and we know that we can do that. So that's how I would say that we do, at least for our, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Nat, but.
No, go ahead, please.
That's how we pretty much hit our timeline and our goals, but we have other things. We do weekly check-ins as a team, and that helps us too. I'm not really big on, just performance in your head. I've got to see it visually. So I've got like charts and things like that to help us stay on track to where our goals are. Because as a business owner, as many people who are listening tonight know, things come at you fast. And you can be in the weeds, and you can spend all your time working in the business and not on the business. And so I try to make sure that my head is always, at least twice a week, that it's always thinking about the growth and not thinking about the delivery and the weeds, which those are important too. But if you spend all your time there, you become an employee of your own business instead of the leader.
Very true, very true. And you've heard me mention many times as CEOs of our business, we've got to think, you've heard me say, and others have, you got to think that 30,000 feet up.
Yep.
You've got to be at that C-suite, looking at it from that long-range goal of growth, and just looking at your business from that vantage point, so you can see the trends that are occurring in your business, so you can make those adjustments. Going back to our questions in here now, very quickly for our audience too, and you and I being HR people, can you explain what are W-2s and 1099s for those who may not know? So some of us that are in HR, we know, but for our listening audience that may not know, can you explain 1099 versus W-2?
Sure, great question. So, really what I'm talking about are really forms. So they're actually IRS forms, and W-2 is designated as a form for an employee, and an employee is someone that is getting a salary or hourly pay, and you're paying payroll taxes and so on, and you're offering them benefits. A 1099 is a contractor, somebody that joins your team, and they either are using their social security number to contract with you, or they're using their company to contract with you. So we use those, I guess, colloquial, language, if you will, in the business world, sometimes as a designation. And I forget that most people have no clue what those forms are. Even I didn't know, as an employee for a long time, I never knew that the form was called W-2, right? I didn't know that. That was W-4, right? So.
Yeah, we do. You do. When you're in that HR arena, sometimes you don't. But hey, as time goes on, you get to know those 1099, W-2s, W-4s, and all the others out here. Yeah. But Cindi, another question that Janine is asking too, and really, I think this is a question that's very, very important. How did you really find and really choose your business partner? And how did you know that that was a good match? Because when you say that, most of us want to be lone rangers, so to speak, out there.
Right.
But how did you really how did you find and choose your business partner?
Great question. So I was very fortunate because, it is hard. It's very hard to find someone that you can work with. And I've had other business partners for other, ventures in the past, and it worked, but maybe it was a lot of struggle. So I would say for us, it just clicked. We worked over a napkin, and Bruce and I worked together years ago. And so it was easy. We already knew how to build on each other's strengths and weaknesses, and who was good at this and who's good at that. Like, I'm good at writing, but he's really great at making it look like really good. You know what I mean? And so, so I'll do the draft and then set it off, right? So you know what your styles are. But I also have a very strong personality, and I needed to be, I guess, in the company of people that can tolerate that, because if you don't know, your strengths and what your personality and your styles and things like that are, you spend more time disagreeing or trying to get past, those idiosyncrasies, if you will, versus, keeping things moving. I'm also fast paced. So I needed someone who was fast paced, and I'm sure he could say the same as well. So I would say personality, style, understanding weaknesses, strengths, and someone that you actually like have shared vision, that you believe in the same thing.
Right.
Because no one wants to bring someone with them or be taken somewhere that you don't really want to go. So that's really important to me as well.
Yeah, and I've always said too, when you start looking at partners out there, it's almost like a marriage.
Yeah.
Because you're with that person, and he or she has really, as you said, got to have the same vision. And at the same time, you and I both know, being in the people business, that's the most critical part, is having that partner and that person there that can really offset, as you said, where you're weak, he or she is strong in, and that team. And that's really what we're talking about, is really our business owners really having that skill, not so much as you, and I want you to elaborate on, not so much really the actual skill set, but that teamwork, that relationship, that you can go into your business and hit those milestones as you've talked about, but you're going in there as a team and you're not going in there as a solo. So you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure, absolutely. So in Blue Flaire, I am the majority owner. So Bruce is a minority owner, and he has other businesses as well. So for us, I think we have to get together virtually every week because we're both, have two separate lives. He has a family. I'm single, very, very busy. He has a family. His daughter actually works with us. And she's on tonight. And, so we have to keep that focus on constant communication, because if not, things can, and I literally talked to him probably like a couple hours ago, and he was headed to a meeting, and, I was like, I have so much to tell you, all these different client, things that are going on. Right. And likewise. And so that's the most important thing. But I think if you have any ability for regular communication, then that's the key. But the other thing is, and I think Mira, who's a part of our team, and she's on tonight, and she hears me say this all the time, I do not like cloudiness and fuzziness. So anything that's not crystal clear, I've got to get it out in the open. So every time I have, quote unquote, a check-in with one of our team members, I always say, is there anything that you want to talk about that, maybe that we need to clear the air on? Because sometimes those things can get in the way, especially when you're in startup mode or you're in growth mode of your business. And if you don't, they can be such a distraction from the actual growth that you need internally as a business owner, but in addition to actually delivering to your clients. And so that has helped me. It's helped our team to be able to keep forward. And if we don't come, whatever we want to discuss, then we're going to keep moving on, and so that has helped us as a team to be able to focus on the goals. And then we talk about, if we need to spend the whole day, hashing out something or what have you, then that's what we need to do. But once we do that, then we're ready to rock and roll with the next task on hand.
Great. Another question that we talked about too, you've mentioned, and everyone here has experienced it, we're going through the pandemic. And most of us that are in business here have made or had to make a pivot.
Yeah.
And in some cases that has made businesses pivot and gone well. Others may not have had the ability to adjust adequately during this pandemic. Was that a challenge to you? And if it was, how were you able to handle these last 12 to 14 months with this pandemic now?
Yeah, great question. I guess the first thing that I had to do, because I think like many people, I was scared. I'm not gonna lie. I was scared. Scared of the unknown. Once I got past that, which was probably a few weeks, and I realized that, you know what, we're gonna be here for a while. So what can you do? We actually were very blessed. We're very fortunate, very grateful that we actually grew a lot. Our revenue grew a lot. Our team grew. I mean, we did have that growth, but we didn't want to focus on it because we actually had clients who we had to help them, you know, offboard, I should say, their staff members. We had to help a couple clients close and take their people and find places for them. We had business friends that lost tremendous amount of business. So it's been rough in that sense. And so what my good friend Marcia shared with me in a text, she said, Cindi, now more than ever, you need to give grace to everybody around you, including yourself. And so what that made me do is made me take the focus off of us and put it back into everybody else. And that meant our clients, our candidates, our business partners, our vendors, our running buddies that are out there. And, you know, and then of course, naturally what happens is, you know, it comes back to you. And, you know, we've been very grateful for that. So we stopped talking about the pandemic and we said, what can we do to make a difference? You know, for everybody around. And some of those clients are now back in business. Some of those people have, you know, started to hire again. And because we were there for them, then they remember that. We weren't doing it for anything in return. We were doing it because that's what you're supposed to do. And we're still seeing that. So it is hard, but we've been very blessed and we're very grateful.
Hey, that's great. That is truly great. Another question we have from our audience here. What would you consider your best practice and your biggest lesson that you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Best practice is be real with yourself.
Okay.
I mean, look yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself. And I think some of my friends would hear me say this, is that you've got to look yourself in the mirror and you've got to, first of all, be very good to yourself because we're our worst critic. Many times, you know, we want everything perfect. So I'm not a perfectionist by any means, and my team will definitely say that. But I also, I strive for excellence. So I can be hard on myself sometimes and hard on my view of others or of process. So I would say be good to yourself is the first thing. And then lesson I learned, I have this sign that is on my refrigerator and it says, don't worry about the failures, worry about the opportunities you didn't take. And I would say the biggest lessons I learned was last year, 2020. I met with a company, big company, and was ready to go, ready to rock and roll. They needed all these different people. And it was during the pandemic and it was in March and they're in Virginia. And I got scared because I wasn't sure that we could deliver on what they needed at the time. But what I was doing was I was looking at it narrowly from my view and not looking at it from the 30,000 foot view. Well, if you need help, go hire the help to get you to where you need to be to deliver. Right. And I took too long and I lost the opportunity.
Okay.
And so instead of talking about it with my business partner, which I didn't do, or talking about it with my business mentor, which I didn't do, I made the decision based on my narrow view and I let my ego get in the way and I missed it. And so I won't ever do that again, ever. Never. So yeah,
no,
that.
Yeah, when you say that, I'm always reminded, and several other people that are on here that I do business coaching, is that you've got to be willing to share. And when you're at that 30,000 feet level, you're looking at that around and you're seeing, okay, do I form a joint venture? Do I form a collaboration? If this is my expertise, but I need additional expertise, do I go out there and seek that?
Yep.
And that was one of the things, if I can digress a little bit in terms of our roundtable, that I've shared in my corporate experience many, many times. I work with companies that form joint ventures where they brought the expertise to the table. And this was a joint venture that was created by 3 major companies who CEOs met, just like we're talking about now, a roundtable. And they looked at the contract and determined what weaknesses that one had that was the other person's strength.
Mm-hmm.
And by looking at that as a collaborative effort, they got the contract and they formed a new company, oddly enough, that I ended up working for.
Mm.
And I share that company, by having formed that joint venture, had a contract to train the Saudi Arabian Navy.
Wow.
And I joined the company that was one of the engineering companies and ended up doing recruitment placement work. And as it evolved, I got a chance to spend 1 solid month in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
So it taught me, even at an early age, that and I was working at the corporate headquarters,
Mm-hmm.
that when I saw these 3 companies coming together, each having their own strength, each having their own weakness,
Mm-hmm.
but forming a joint venture to go after a contract that they all were awarded,
Mm-hmm.
and they divided the contract into 3 different slices.
Mm-hmm.
So I share that to the group here, that's what you look for sometimes. We
Yep.
all, as CEOs, we all do not, and as you said, Cindi, we don't have all those answers and we don't have all those strengths.
Mm-hmm.
But as business people, particularly business people of color, sometimes our egos or our desire to keep it close to the vest and keep it within. And I always say, guess what? 2 things. When a turtle wants to move, he or she has to stick their neck out.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a flower to bloom, they've got to spread. So when you're looking at that, that's what you start looking at that 30,000 feet up. Who can I call on that have similar or different strengths that they can bring to the table, get that particular contract, and guess what? We slice it into 2 ways, 3 slices, or 4 slices. But guess what? You got a piece of the pie.
That's right.
And that's the critical thing. Quick question 2. Now that you're in your company, and we talk about this a lot of times, company culture. How would you describe now your company's culture as it relates to your business?
So we are very engaged. So we're excited because we just started really, well, let me just kind of step back a little bit. I am a big fan of building a community. So we decided as a group that we were going to start a community of helping candidates before they become candidates, if you will. And specifically, we are a Black-owned company, and our team members right now are all different backgrounds and Black as well. And we are excited about helping other people that are coming from different backgrounds, that they are looking for help, if you will, in getting to the next level. And so our latest initiative has been starting a young women and of color technology roundtable. And our culture is really about helping the community that we're a part of. And, you know, when you have a thriving community around you, no matter if it's Howard County or whatever county people live in, you can pull from that county because you've invested in it. So I would say our culture is very engaging. We're very aware of what's going on around us. And we want to be that voice, not just a staffing firm, not just a placement firm, but a firm that is ingrained into the community in which we live and work. So that's probably, I guess, the best way to describe us.
Great. That sounds absolutely fantastic. And really what I was thinking when you were saying that in terms of that culture, how do you look at that culture being passed on to those clients that you're talking about? How do you cultivate that and get them engaged? What are some of the techniques?
So my wonderful intern and co-chair and I have put together this roundtable. So we've got tomorrow night, one of our clients actually is presenting to these young women of color in technology. And what we decided to do was to ask our clients if they'd be willing to speak and share and give their story to this group of women. And we're saying women, but eventually I'm sure we'll open it up to you know, anyone that wants to be a part of the group or start something else. And the reason is most of our clients want to give back. You know, they want to do more than just build their business too. And so engaging them into our community helps. And what we're finding is reciprocity. They're saying, hey, you know what, can you come with me to this? We want to invite you to, we're going to a bidders conference. Are you able to come? Because there's a staffing component that's needed. And I'm representing that company, you know, when I go to that bidders conference. That's the type of engagement that we're looking for. And if they can see you as a partner and not just as a vendor, then they're willing to stay in business with you because they get that you get their business. And that you're investing in them as a leader, as you are hoping that they will continue to do business with you.
So another side question on it, as you move forward, are you thinking about using that possibly as a barometer or measuring stick, if you will? Because, you know, as entrepreneurs, sometimes we go after any business, and sometimes any business is not good business.
Yeah.
And you're building up a reputation now of quality, of integrity, trust, all that's part of your culture. Do you see that now becoming part of the matrix or benchmarking on the clients that you go after?
Yep. Yeah. We've actually said no, even this year, to different clients, and I don't have a problem saying no. If it's a mess in their company, we like a mess because we can help them clean out their mess, right? But if the leadership is not functioning correctly, and the employees feel lost, then that may not be the right environment, unless they're saying, we've discovered that this environment is not what we want it to be. We've lost our way, or our values aren't, you know, being adhered to, those kinds of things. And we need new staff, or we need some help in that. And that's one thing, because they already recognize it's an issue. But we have some clients that we've, you know, talked to or worked with, and then we've had to exit because it wasn't the right environment for us. We knew that it was not going to be healthy. It was going to be toxic, or it was toxic, and we actually said no. So whether we get the reciprocity and engagement, you know, the way that I explained before, is not necessarily our barometer, but I would say if it's a healthy, growing, you know, mindset of, you know, company values and people doing what they say, then yes, we will definitely, you know, partner with them as well.
I'm keying on two words that you mentioned in there, or two words that we were mentioning as far as the corporate culture, but the other core values, values of the company, values of yourself, your company. Give us, if you will, maybe 2 or 3 core values now that you've been in business for 5 years now. How would you describe now your company's core values, their top 3, and how do they align with the businesses that you're going after, as you mentioned?
Right. So our biggest core value is meaning what you say and delivering what you say. That is big for me. I will stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning to make sure that we deliver what we say we're going to do. Sometimes we hit it, and when we don't, I feel it. But that's what I would say is our biggest thing. And then their second thing is communication. We like to over communicate. We don't ever want our clients to wonder, you know, what's going on, or our team members to wonder what's going on. And there's sometimes, you know, I've missed the mark and I'm like, I forgot to do check-in this week, you know, or, you know, or whatever. So, but that's something that we strive for as well, is making sure that we deliver and we mean what we say we're going to do. So if we're going to be able to deliver those candidates to the client, then that's what we're going to do. And then the last thing is being visible and being authentic. So that's really, really a big thing for me. I don't like walking into a new company or even an existing team and promising something that I know I can't deliver. And so being authentic to our clients is really important. And it sounds very cliche-ish, if you will, but very few people actually expect it these days. So when you actually deliver it, they're like, oh, okay, you really are who, yes, we really are. Exactly. So those are, I would say, our top 3. We have about 5 or 6, but those are our top 3.
Sure. I can understand that. As you said, those are the culture, the integrity, the authenticity. That's what you want to see and demonstrate. That is the old cliche, you're walking the talk.
Yep.
And that's critical out there. Cindi, probably if we've got any more questions in here, I want to pose these last 2 in here. What words of wisdom? You've been in business now for approximately 5 years. You've been in this world work-wise for a lot more years in here. What words of wisdom would you want to pass on now to our existing entrepreneurs or people who want to jump into that business? What words of wisdom would you want to pass on, particularly from a slant of a woman of color going into business?
If you are thinking about it, I would say talk to someone who, or many someones like I've done, that are doing what you want to do, and devise a plan. And, you know, a business coach or, you know, a mentor, or maybe just a running buddy, somebody that can guide you to get started. And once you make that decision, it'll be the most exciting thing because it's yours. No one can take it from you, and you've got it, you know, for as long as you want it. And if you are already in business, very similar to the same kind of advice, you know, link up with other people like this roundtable, you know, like-minded people, you know, and I think the more you keep your mind and your heart and your spirit open to receive knowledge, always be a life learner, the more you will attract. Because most, I would honestly tell you, the majority of our, probably 99% of our business that we've done in 5 years have come from referrals. 99. We've done more marketing this year than any year. And we probably have only paid just a few $100s really total in all years worth of actual advertisement for our business. Maybe about $500 because we did do an ad this year. But so you'll naturally attract people to you. So if you're worried about how you're going to get your product or your service out or your name out, you probably already know how to do that, but you're worried about it from your standpoint. You just got to put it down on paper, not necessarily look at, you know, the outcome. I mean, that's important because that's the goal that you're working towards, but look at the habits that you're doing on a regular daily basis. So that will help you to reach the milestones in which you're looking to achieve. And don't stop. Just don't stop for nothing. Put all in. Like don't ever stop. And I was having a conversation with someone not long ago, and I was like, you know, every time you stop and you get scared, because I've been there, I've been that person, you gotta start all over again. I mean, yes, you're starting from experience, but you're starting all over again, and all that energy it takes to get all, you know, all over, it's a lot. But if you keep going, even if you just slow down, but don't stop, then you don't have to worry about what's behind you. You're only looking forward. And if you fall forward. You don't fall back, you fall forward. And you're still moving forward, right?
Right, right.
And so all of those things I would say are the advice I would give. And don't get distracted. There are going to be a lot of people in your circle, friends or family or whoever, who are not going to believe you that you're starting your own business or that you're in business and you're taking it to the next level. You know what? This vision or the dream or the goal that you have wasn't given to them. That's what they have their own. You've got yours for a reason. You were called for it. They can't do your work. Only you can do your work. And once you realize there's enough for you to do and make a big difference in the world, you'll go after it because you know that's your purpose. And once you know that purpose, nothing's going to stop you.
You said some key words in there: your dream, your purpose, you don't give up, you fall forward, you keep on moving forward. I always use a term that I heard many years ago: you keep pounding, you keep looking forward. And I will share with you very quickly for our audience, having celebrated my 21st year in my own business, I can tell you, yes, it's been a journey, but I totally agree with you 100%. You keep looking forward. And I'm more excited now, to be quite candid, and I know you are. I'm more excited now than I've been even before because the opportunities are still there. Yeah. So again, that's what you have to look at, is always the cup is half full. It's constantly changing. And as long as you're keeping abreast of those trends and those changes out there, the excitement is going to be there.
Yeah.
So again, how would you want to close this now? What, any thoughts or closing thoughts for you that you may have as an owner?
Okay, as an owner, I would say laugh at yourself the entire way, because you're going to do that.
Okay.
And if you need a laugh, just call me, because I can certainly buy that for sure. Realize that you're building your story, and you know, this is going to test you, but you're being tested anyway. Especially if you're in a position that you don't like what you're doing right now. And so, or you're afraid, like I was afraid. So that's okay. You're building up your muscle and strength. Just keep going. Believe in yourself. And if you don't, call somebody that can help you to understand, you know, that you are worth everything. You know, no one person should make you feel like you're not able to do whatever's the next step for you, whether that's getting started, whether that's growing to $10 million or selling your business or whatever that may be. You're worth it. So I would say, as an owner, believe all those things and don't stop.
Great, great. I've got one closing one in here that was asked. Do you know of any organization or individual with ideas / inventions that can that you can turn to for guidance on whether to sell them or pursue manufacturing or selling on your own. Janine, if you've got that, maybe hold that. And if Cindi can answer that, great. If not, I'm thinking off the top of my head, send me your email and I will probably try my best to give you some insight as to who can help you on that regard, okay? But Cindi, if you know of anyone, I'll throw it out to you, any organization or individual with ideas / inventions that you can turn to for guidance on whether to sell them or pursue manufacturing or selling on their own.
So I think the first I would probably say are a lot of our incubators that are around in Maryland. Maryland is a really good state for both manufacturing and for services. And there's a lot of incubators in our area, and some of those could help for sure. They're all so good. I mean, so we've got UMBC has a good incubator, a business incubator, as well as the Maryland Innovation Center. They're a lot. So I would definitely link up with Nat, or I can help in any which way.
Sure. Okay, well, it's that time. Cindi, I just want to say again, thank you, thank you, thank you. On behalf of the Howard County Library System and the UJAAMA Business Roundtable, we want to thank you for taking time out to share your business, your vision, and as an entrepreneur, I think I say for all our guests in here, we wish you continued success in your business. And I put a plug in for next month. We've got another guest that's going to be on, and she's here watching right now. So I'm going to give a plug out for our May guest, which is Patricia Newby. And Patricia, just wave your hand so people can see you. I won't preempt you early. Just say, folks, tune in next month, the 4th Tuesday of the month, which is May 25th. So you can really see and hear what Patricia is going to talk about her business, because this is what we're doing. And again, highlighting business opportunities and business owners here in Howard County and the surrounding area. And again, I want to thank Nancy. Again, I always have to plug you, Nancy, you know that. And the Howard County Library System, because here again, folks, technology, oddly enough, I'll share this with our audience. Nancy and I have not seen each other face to face yet, but we developed this relationship via a digital platform. And I got to say, Nancy, it has been an absolutely fantastic relationship with you and the Howard County Library. And I think of all of us who are in Howard County, and I'm getting a plug in there for our county, we've got the best library system in the country that's recognized nationally as one of the best. And Nancy, you and your staff and the CEO, Tanya, up there really epitomize what Howard County has to offer. So again, I thank you and the Howard County Library for partnering with us to showcase our women of color businesses here in Howard County. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this evening. And Nancy, I'll turn it over to you for closing remarks.
Well, how can I say any more than that? A huge shout out to Cindi. Cindi, thank you so much. I mean, you were just, I mean, as a person and as a small business owner, you're just inspiring. So we want to tell you, don't stop. And I want to thank my colleague Cynthia for being here tonight. And Nat, as always, it's just an absolute pleasure. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording. I want to thank everybody so much for coming out here tonight.